We're here at CONEXPO for Tenna. CONEXPO is our prom meets our Super Bowl meets our Oscars. You know, every 3 years it's this massive gig for us. And then I realized it's even way more massive for you, John. Thank you for being here, because I know how busy you are this week, and everybody wants a piece of John, to the point of where your voice is clearly hoarse at this point.
Yeah, it's getting there.
Yeah. And we also have Nick. And Nick, I know you've had to travel, put some steps around because you have several presences here that you have to cover as well. But if you wouldn't mind quickly introducing yourself, talking about Nick, you want to start?
Sure. So Nick Bollweg, Manager of Emerging Solutions at John Deere, focus on digital solutions for John Deere. So kind of origin back with JD Link days, now Operations Center, and then we've expanded into the relationship with Tenna and a new product, Virtual Superintendent. Also, in my alter ego is I lead the ISO working group that has been working on the 15143 series of interoperability standards. So that's been kind of an interesting journey over the last decade or so.
John Summers with Association of Equipment Manufacturers, so AEM. So I'm our Vice President of our construction utility sector. So as you mentioned, you know, AEM owns and runs CONEXPO ConAg, and it's our party we throw for you guys every 3 years.
Yeah.
It's kind of nuts. So my wife runs our trade show operations department, so she's probably more ingrained in the show than I am. I just show up and high five people, right? So it's my job. That should be my title, like high fiver. But yeah, Nick. I mean, I've been with AEM for like 19 years, but I mean, I came into the construction, like our CE sector, 2014, and I think you were one of the first people that I connected with or got to know based on telematics data and stuff like that. So we've had a good, long-standing relationship with the standards for 12 years now, whatever it's been. It's kind of crazy it's been that long.
Yeah,
I know,
right,
it's nuts. And here we are still talking about the same thing almost.
Is that good? Is that bad?
Well, at least it's not in the same place, right? We've made progress.
Right, exactly.
Those of you that don't know a lot about telematics and data and all the numbers that Nick just rolled off of his tongue, because he talks about it all the time, I was excited to have you guys join. Because there is a lot of talk, and I'd like to say progress. We'd all like it to be faster, but around standardizations and openness of data and all that thing. But you guys both are like in the driver's seat for these discussions that everybody here is thinking and talking about. Every Tenna customer, every customer of using any telematics is like, where's this headed? How do I get more data? And how do I get it all in the same format so I can action on it? What are you most excited about? What do you think the industry's most excited about?
So I'll start and I'll make a couple comments here, and then we can kind of roll into that. But like, you think about a technology, right? And one of AEM's roles is to like keep advancing the industry forward and becoming more efficient, right? So you think a technology hits the market, just call it telematics, Tenna's offering, whatever it is, right? Like, first of all, people need to know it exists. Like, awareness is the first thing. So like at the show, I mean, they're aware of you now, you got a big booth, right? So I mean, but then it is like understanding the value it provides. Okay, cool. So like it exists. Okay, now I want it. And then the ease of implementation is where a lot of people get hung up, right? Because it's like, I want this data. It's like, how do I get it? Oh, it's in 7 different systems. Oh, I have this old machine. How do I? So it's all of those like barriers to adoption. Like that's kind of AEM's role, is to figure out how to remove those barriers, or probably not completely remove them, but like minimize them, so a contractor can basically like push a button and stuff works, right? So I mean, it's the the ease of implementation, integration, whatever the word would be, I think is probably like our role. So to pull our members like John Deere and other equipment OEMs, telematics providers together to be like, what can we commonize, standardize, work on together, which isn't like competing with each other in that sense, right? Just to make it easier for everybody's customer.
Yeah, I mean, AEM's been a great evangelist, and it really is like there's a natural sense to try and protect, right? Like, this is our product. We want to have something that's kind of a contained ecosystem, but it's important to think about like, no, if we all work together, this actually is great for everyone. And the analogy we use in the ISO group, which everybody's very passionate about interoperability, but the idea is like, think way back, like if an Android phone and an iPhone were never designed to communicate to each other, that would have hindered the volume, the capability of both systems to get out there. But the fact that you can text somebody on my iPhone to your Android, or call somebody, just means that it's way more highly used, there's more value, etc. So I mean, part of this has just been evangelizing that there's a lot of value for everybody in the industry to share data and work together.
I'm sure you at John Deere would like people to only buy John Deere equipment. And even if you tried super hard, it's not going to happen.
Right. Yeah.
Everybody has a mixed fleet.
Yeah.
So it's like you need to make it, it's just the way it is. And it's like you don't make every product. So of course they're going to buy this stuff, right?
Right.
So it's kind of like just the fact of that. And then, so since that's going to exist and there's no stopping that, right? It's like, how do you just help them be more efficient and provide them value from multiple, sides? So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a big passion of mine because you think about, and I feel like construction always kind of gets a bad rap, and they say like people are reluctant to adopt technology, or whatever whatever the word is, right? And I don't think that's true. I think especially younger generation in construction, like I think they want to do this. It's just sometimes the risk is too high. Right, because if they're like, I'm going to spend $100,000 in the system or whatever it is, and margins are in single digits, like if I can't integrate that in and get its full value, like I'm just losing money.
Yeah.
So I'd rather just do it the old way, right? So it's like figuring out how to, quote unquote, guarantee that it'll work and stuff like that, and that's through standardization, interoperability.
It's great that you use that iPhone analogy because I use the same analogy in a different way. For standardization, totally makes sense, and you're talking about how maybe we're starting to embrace tech a little bit more than we used to. And this iPhone is one of the reasons that, like 10 years ago, someone might want to operate a bulldozer because it meant they weren't in front of a laptop every day, right? But what's changed? Every one of them has one of these in their pocket now.
Yeah.
And if you're like, I still think of this as a little magic box, but our kids in their 20s, this is how they run their life. And now when they come to work for a construction company, they're like, why is my personal life so much easier to run than my work life? Like, why doesn't all this stuff just work well? Why do I have to write shit down and pardon my French? You can edit that, right? Like have my superintendent drive it into the office in the F-150, right? And so they're all expecting things to synchronize and work well together. And the good news is tech's getting better at serving construction, at least I hope so, that's my belief. And construction's getting better at working with tech and partnering to solve those, I think, as a general trend. And I think this is what's driving a lot of it.
Absolutely. That generation that's used to that is slowly evolving into our industry, right?
That's
so
right.
they're expecting that, and how do we adapt and keep up with it? Plus, I think COVID was like this adrenaline shot to become familiar with digital, and I have to work remotely and use data.
Yeah.
So the convergence of these trends is like, man, we need our industry to keep up.
Yes, we have all the high-end solutions, but we actually have a really low-end solution, QR codes.
Yeah.
And COVID did nothing but teach people what the heck a QR code was.
That's right.
That's how I get my menu at the restaurant now.
It's funny you mentioned the, personal life and technology you have access to being easier than one bit. So I always tell this story, and it's like, I remember going to work with my dad when I was like 10 or whatever like that. I'd go in his office. They had one of the old school Apple Macintosh computers, right? And a copy machine that you like put your hand on or something else on and take a copy of it. And like, we didn't have that at home. Right, and then all of a sudden those lines started crossing of now you have voice assistants like in your house all over the time, turning lights on and whatever. And it's like, how do you, remember when I started at AEM, like a bunch of people still had like outdated phones and they were trying to get their email on them. And I'm like, why don't you just buy everybody an iPhone, right? I mean, it was like, it's just this weird, like the line shift, right? And it's like, why can't we just have this ease of access to information in the business world that we do, in our personal life? So.
Yeah. Your earlier point about John Deere's huge. There's a huge booth here. It's a great, successful, wonderful company, but it also takes 25 minutes to walk from one side of CONEXPO to the other, which is our 3-year reminder of, wow, there are a lot of options out there and a lot of ways to do things, and nobody makes everything, right? And how do we bring simplicity to all that? To start with, thank you for volunteering your time, Nick, to help push this agenda that helps everybody. How do we make this stuff simpler and access to everybody, and open data communication stuff is so valuable to everybody that's walking this show today. Near and dear to Tenna's heart, of course. I guess I'm seeing a trend in construction that they want to simplify this. Like I go to construction companies that have 100 different technologies, and they're trying to distill that down and get they want construction focused, they want simple. That's a trend I'm seeing. But I'm going to turn this into a question, but here's my problem. You guys are a little too smart for me to go, and you guys have been doing this longer than I have. Not that you're older, I think I'm older, but in the helm of driving these conversations. So looking at this 3-year drumbeat we have with CONEXPO, right? From this CONEXPO to say the next CONEXPO, what are some big problems you're hearing across the industry? They're going to be the big hot ones that folks are looking to solve over the next couple of years. What's the drumbeat of conversations you're hearing?
So I always try and figure out what the theme of the show is going to be before getting here, right? So 2020's theme was COVID.
No, yeah, that's easy.
That's just for every industry.
Hands.
Yay, elbow bumps.
Yeah.
Elbow bumps.
That was a crazy week.
Yeah, but you think about, like, if you even go back further than that, right? So 2017, it was probably startups and investment moving beyond pre-construction. So like a lot of that was digitizing stuff from like the architecture side of things was what was happening until like 2017, 2020. And then you started getting more companies doing data, more, I always call it equipment touching, that's probably not the right word, but more like on the job site technology versus like, pre-construction or as-built data, and even that could even be like labor tracking and stuff like that. So those companies really started coming. And then going into 2023, it was a lot about powertrain, electrification, powertrain changes, right? There was a bunch of hydrogen machines here, electric. There's still some, but I mean, administration kind of changes. The industry learns a lot of things, like that works really well in certain situations, not in some other situations. So that's, I think, battery electric equipment, hydrogen fuel cell or hydrogen combustion, like that's here to stay, and it's still here, and it'll just keep going more and more. But that was kind of 2020's theme. 2023's theme. 2026, I think it's interoperability. Like there was the news release that AEM put out Monday, a few days ago, on the part 4 of that standard, basically the grade control, machine control interoperability, right? Yeah. And there was 5, don't include myself, 4 companies quoted in there. Maybe there was 5 total. So it was 3 technology providers, you and another equipment OEM. So, and it was all saying, we're all working on this together. We understand the value of data portability, interoperability. So that, right? I mean, there's brands of equipment in other people's booths that you're like, why is that here? And I'm like, well, because they have this collaboration deal now. So it's collaboration, interoperability. I think that's a 2026 theme. And 2029, it's probably going to be even more crazy, right? So, I mean, it's just going to keep accelerating.
I think between now and then, kind of building up, I totally love the timeline there. I think there's a continue to be faster and make interoperability implementation easier. Yeah. Because there's just more, how do we collaborate quicker and make it so that a customer even knows they're there, and then I can communicate more easily. But ultimately, not to use a buzzword alert, but AI. Everybody's getting into it, and like, how do we leverage AI? And the fuel of AI is data, right? And so the more you can get the data in one spot that relates to your business, the more opportunity it is to leverage AI or other tools in order to really get more insights out of that. So that might be at 2029 is like continue.
Interesting.
I mean, AI is kind of there and people talk about it, but how we really use it and how the industry gets the most value out of it.
So there's this thing called the Gartner hype cycle. Do you guys know what this is?
Right? Yeah.
So I always talk about this because the 2 things I just talked about, meaning like alternative powered equipment and then like the interoperability and data, are in 2 different places on that. So the way that goes is that a technology launches and then it hits the peak of inflated expectations, right? So it's like, well, we're going to get all this data. So this was probably 2015 when we were hanging out, 10 years ago. Everybody's like, pour the data, open the fire hose, right? And then they're like, I'm going to swear because you did. Holy shit, there's too much. There's too much data coming. Like, I don't know what to do with it. But they thought they were like, I'm going to get all these insights and everything's going to be immaculate, right? So peak, and then it crashes, right? So it comes all the way back down. The trough of disillusionment, which is the best name for anything ever.
I know,
But like, it's down there, and that's where technologies die. Right, because if you don't stick with it, it just sits down there and they're like, this doesn't do what I thought it was going to do. Telematics, equipment data, interoperability of data, grade control system, the slope of enlightenment is the next piece of that. So all of those are coming out of that, and they're all accelerating really fast. So your AI point, I think AI hit the bottom of the trough in like 2023, because then you would search for something and it would give you wrong information, or you try hallucinations, and you try and like, I don't know, create a picture or something like that, and you'd be like, that isn't even what I asked for, right? And that's all coming out of it now because people are understanding that AI is a tool and how to use that like to help automate something or do something better. So the fact that an AI relies on data, right? So the fact that construction data and AI are both coming up with that slope at the same time is like super interesting. Yeah. It's just going to accelerate into 29.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You hit several great points there. If you don't know the Gartner hype cycle, look it up. It's not really opinion. There's data of how it happens and why. What's interesting about it is to look at what's special about it each time it happens with something new. And a couple things are happening right now. One is everybody's realizing that, I guess I'd say, focus matters, and that the high, as people look at AI and look at tech or look at equipment, that construction matters. Like, why are we all here at CONEXPO? Because these are all people that love and build towards the industry. Construction's weird, wacky, and wonderful in a lot of ways. And we, even if you go back 100 years, look at when hydraulics first came out. There was a time when construction companies said hydraulics aren't working for us.
Yeah.
And then somebody goes, oh wait, what if there's heat and impact and dirt and and then you can't imagine having equipment without hydraulics now.
Yeah.
And then you had the internet, and it's repeated over and over and over again. Now we have AI, and what's interesting is we're learning yet again that focus matters. And then also pace. What's interesting about this, you have the Industrial Revolution, you have when trains came in, all that. AI, the pace is crazy.
Yeah.
So the problem is you can't really bury your head in the sand on it for a couple of years, is my point. Like, I talk to construction leaders and I'm like, hey, are you using AI? And they're like, no. And I'm like, you're wrong.
Yeah.
People at your company are using it, you just don't know about it yet.
Yeah.
And so that case is interesting, and I know before Aaron brought us back on topic, we were talking about cybersecurity, and it creates a lot of leaks and problems as well. Like people, hey, I'm going to take my bid and throw it into ChatGPT.
Right.
Hey, that was for a data center that no one's allowed to know about.
Right, yeah.
And you see that stuff all over the time. So that case is absolutely frightening as well.
The thing about pace too is we use the term like you can't outpunt your coverage, right? And so if you are developing something that maybe your support team or whatever can't talk about or really effectively help a customer, like you don't want to introduce something to somebody who, like, you want to do the job that you do every day, right? Make the decisions you make. If we give a tool that makes you completely change how you do your day, you're going to be like, you know what? I'm going to do what I traditionally do. So it's how do we provide a tool that you do your job and make decisions faster, easier, better, but then you need the right people to help, like, make it easy to use or help train you so you know how to use it. So but it's a fast pace, but how do you not outpoint your coverage?
And that ties into just people's natural mental state, right? So people don't actually want something different. They want something familiar done differently.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So there's
great. I love that. I love that.
They don't want something genuinely new. They want something familiar done differently, right? So do you know when sushi came to the U.S.? Like, do you know why something's called the California roll? Is because people were really not comfortable. I don't know what year this was, before all of us was born, even though I am younger than you, Russ. I think it was like the 50s or 60s or whatever it was, right? And people were like, I can't handle this raw fish, right?
Yeah.
So at the time, like, California was cool. I don't know if it still is. But like, they took familiar ingredients. So people knew what rice was. They put it on the outside of the seaweed wrap so you wouldn't see it, and there was avocado or cream cheese and sometimes cooked fish. So you take familiar ingredients, put them together, it's done differently, and then that was the gateway to then trying something else,
broader,
right?
yeah.
So you think about, like, back to this industry, right? Like, you still are familiar with doing your job. Let's say it's moving dirt, right? Cool. That's why I don't think you'll see people leap from being in the cab to fully autonomous, even if the technology can do it 100%, because it's too different. So the steps in between that are, now we have a grade control system where you're basically only hitting gas brake and the blade's doing it on its own, right? And there's those steps that happen in between.
You have to evolve to get
to evolve, right? So it's kind of the back to the data thing, right? It's like, I want to know when I need to do maintenance on my equipment. Like, that's my job, is to understand that. Currently, I go out to the machine and read some hour meters and do some stuff, right? So it's like you're still familiar with it, doing the same job, it's just doing it a little bit differently, but we can't go too fast, right?
I'm going to branch for a second on the ISO for a second.
Yeah.
So the ISO, my ISO Tourette's was 15143, there's -3, -4, but we have kind of a long-term view of the series of standards. Part 3, aka AMP 2.0, was about machine data. Part 4, which, like you said, the press release came out, was about grade control interoperability. We're now working on a part 5, which starts to get into workflow, cost codes, kind of the production of a site. But ultimately, there's a trajectory towards autonomy and what data will we need in the future to help have an interoperable autonomous site. Now we're getting there, but it's an evolution. But our approach has been, how do we connect or enable data flow to help match that pace of evolving technology in the industry?
Right.
So
it's fun when you talk about tech, you talk about construction, you talk about the standards, and one trend I've seen, even if I go back to COVID CONEXPO, there was a lot of talk from construction where the drumbeat I would hear is like, oh, once I get my ERP implementation done, then I'm good and I can go back to work for a while, kind of a talk. And now the talk is change isn't a destination, and now we look at it as a journey. Like you're never done. When you're done changing is probably when you're dying.
Yeah.
And so now we accept change as this state that you're in. It's a state of mind. It's a journey, not a destination.
Yeah.
And another thing I'm seeing, we think about equipment, and I don't want to turn this into a commercial for like virtual superintendent, but you guys are, it's cool that I think it's hitting a drumbeat of where the industry is going, where we're really taking a very data-driven approach to looking at production.
Yeah.
And where are the bottlenecks? And it's not opinion. It's there it is on a screen staring at you, which I think is where we're going. Like it reminds me of like, you used to have a line judge in tennis calling it in or out. Nobody does that now. Like there's a camera that shows you if it's in or out.
Yeah, right.
And I kind of like that. Like everybody's got an opinion, but I like that data is starting to like win the day.
When it's right data to the right person at the right time, timeliness of data is so important, right?
That's
you can have good data, but if it's 2 weeks late, you can't make any decisions with it, right? So the idea is not only the right data, but accurate, but get it to me right now. And that's one of the reasons we're excited about virtual superintendent with productivity, is it's giving you productivity data almost real time. So you can adjust your job site workflows as needed to make sure you're profitable on your job site. So
yeah, there's this, every construction exec shows up and they're like, what do I focus on today?
Yeah.
But like if it's staring you in the face, here's where you can make the best impact today.
Yeah.
That's where we're getting. Like you can show up and actually know what you need to focus on.
And occasionally some various, different things happen on a job site that change how you need to do things from day to day, right? Whether it's, weather or whatever, things change.
We hear that from the show perspective, like the CONEXPO attendee feedback perspective, right? And we're talking about like the future construction, but I would say 98% of the stuff here is available today or by like next week, right? Because all the contractors here, like they don't have time to screw around. Like they want something that's going to impact their business like tomorrow and hit the bottom line like next Tuesday.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like we've done some there's like startup companies here that kind of have our almost like concept and stuff like that. Like it's cool, but they also have something that is available now, right? So it's like we really focus on it. So you look at like shows like CES or like some of those more like futuristic shows like that, and totally place for those, right? But like totally different audience. Right, like those are more tech people that are like, hey, is this in 10 years from now, is something going to do all this crazy stuff, right? And we're like, this is all stuff that you can do like now and impact you now, because that's what everybody really needs. So we really try to focus on that from the show perspective too.
Yeah, we're seeing, I guess I'd say, a balance that you kind of have to have two things. Like, so we had 3 product launches here at CONEXPO. We timed them so that we would launch them at CONEXPO. Like we'd like to get a lot of attention, and so people are like, is this yep, it's available, it's on the shelf, it's on the truck. Well, actually, literally on the truck. Figuratively and literally, didn't mean that. But we're also seeing that there's a trend, when we think about change, that they want a partner that's there for the journey. If you buy something based on here's your AI capabilities today. 3 months from now, the ball's moved. In 6 months, the ball's moved again. So we're seeing, I want something now, and it's got to work. And they'll even build like as a recovering consultant, we would build requirements traceability matrix. Like, what does my company need? What does the tech or solution do? And compare the results and give it a grade. But now they're evolving to but that's a snapshot for today.
Yeah.
And you do it. That's not where you're done though. That's where you start. And now you got to look at where is this going to be 6 months from now and 12 months from now, and are we going in the same direction together? Are we going to be partners that stay on this journey of change together? And do we have the same guiding North Star? So yes, it's got to be there today. I'd almost say like, yes, I like you because you're at CONEXPO today, but have you been at the last 3 CONEXPOs? Are you on this journey with me? Not, I don't mean to be selling booth space here, but like there's almost like,
Also, okay.
like, are you on this journey with me? How much do you care about where I'm going? Will you take my feedback and continue to improve and change? Because change is always going to be happening.
Yeah.
Interesting comment, but a really crappy question. I've been spending 3 years ago, I was all over the place.
Yeah.
This year, this time, I've been at the booth almost the whole time, John, and my feet are happy, but I feel like there's some drum beats I've been missing. So you've been all over the place. You've been on stage.
Yeah.
You're crafting your presentations in AI, which I loved hearing about. What else that I think of me as someone the booth guy, like what have I missed? What are a couple of the other hot things you've gotten really excited about?
I mean, the show's over 2,000 exhibitors, 3 million square feet, right? So I have 3 million square feet,
Jeez.
which is
so
nuts.
no one gets to see all of it.
Like, I mean, you asked me earlier what I'm looking forward to next week, and I said not wearing shoes. So like, can't wait. I mean, I haven't seen it all. I mean, there's always, you talk about products that are here today, right? I feel like this show has more, call it updates to existing products than before, and that could be, I'll just put a plug in here because I did this earlier. Earlier this week, I moderated Mack Truck's keynote on the stage, and they launched a new truck, and they did significant updates to another one. So like, this industry is really good at understanding what the customer needs, right? So you have a product out there, the customer likes it, wants some things different, and then they take that feedback and then they iterate on that, right? So it isn't always just about here's a new product or here's the same thing with more horsepower. I mean, it's not just those kind of ends of the spectrum. So to answer your question kind of specifically, Russ, like, I walk around here, there's a lot of new companies, there's a lot of brand new products, but it seems like there's a lot of, hey, this thing's been in the marketplace. Deere launched new excavators, right? I mean, there are updates to your dozer too, right? I mean, it's kind of sort of the same thing, but like significant updates to it versus a brand new product. And that's really cool to see, because I always tell attendees at this show, I'm like, don't be scared to talk to the OEMs. Like, just push your way in their booth. They're here to talk to you and give them like legit customer feedback. Because for you guys and you guys, good or bad, you don't talk to, I mean, maybe you do, but you probably don't talk to the end user as much as you talk to some other people, right? So it's like, you want that feedback, and it's cool to see the industry like really take that and then iterate on products that it has just to make them better. It's great.
Yeah, Deere is opening up a new excavator plant in Kernersville, North Carolina, which I'm taking credit for because I live in Raleigh. I don't think anybody at Deere knows I live in Raleigh. But I was excited that they were like, please, and bring people, come check it out. Like, that feedback loop that is, in tech, you have to do it, right? Like, it's innovate or die, right? But Deere, how old is Deere? It's
1837.
1837. So it's been around a couple minutes.
John Deere's in the AEM Hall of Fame, like the guy named John Deere, which is kind of amazing. I think he was one of the first, when we launched it, actually a group launched it, and then AEM kind of took it over. But I don't know, we have like 100 people in the Hall of Fame now, but it was funny because I think he was one of the,
I didn't know that.
There was I'm not in it yet. There was like this group of, I don't know, let's just say 20 people that were the initial class of that, right? So it was interesting to see, like who they were, and it was like Mr. John Deere was one of them.
That's
so
awesome.
it was kind of cool. But anyway, so you said 1938?
1837.
1837, okay. So yeah, it was like whatever year, like he launched the company and stuff like that. Like, we have all that information. It's cool.
I just love the openness to the feedback loop, right?
Yeah.
Like, I love working with people, and like there's a lot of trust, personality, and relationships in this. That's how, like, a general contractor doesn't work with a subcontractor because they're perfect. It's because they've got this relationship and they know who to talk to when things go a little bit sideways, or here's what we need to be thinking about 6 months down the road. And I love that, like, John Deere was like, come to the manufacturing plant, take a tour, let's like work on this together, kind of a, and John, I love, no matter how busy you are with this show, you're always like, what can we doing better? What do you need? Like, tell me how this experience is going. You're very generous, and you don't, you're like, give me the opinion so I can keep making improvements. And
totally.
I just love that as we show up here in this drumbeat, we're all just, the industry just keeps getting more and more open to change and growing
Yeah.
together, which is just fun.
I mean,
That's part of the rapid pace and the evolution. You know, if you go back 50 years or more, the pace was slower. So, you know, as a OEM, you could maybe do something, take it to the field, bring it back. Like it could be more serial. But now it's like we have a mantra close to our customers in the booth, right? And that's totally like you have to do product development in a way where you're listening, you're making changes, you're iterating, try this out to keep up with the pace you were talking about earlier. So,
Yeah.
it's you said that I always ask you guys and a bunch of people here like, how's it going? You know, is there anything I can help with? I mean, this is our product.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, the show is our product. So I didn't think about this until you just said that, but like we're also getting close to our customers and your customers, like the attendees are also our customers too. I mean, they buy badges to come to the show. And I always ask everybody like, how is this? What do you need? What could we do differently and stuff like that? And taking that feedback and iterating on the show. I mean, like we have a keynote stage here now. We never have done general sessions here. I mean, you guys have a stage in your booth and so do a bunch of other people, but like we need to bring some of the broader topics to this audience, right?
Yeah.
And that was one of the things we heard was like 3 million square feet. I can't make it around here. Like I was, you know, not me personally, but I mean like somebody could be out in festival grounds looking at somebody like that and they were like, well, I missed the thing in John Deere's booth and now I got to run over here to Komatsu's booth and whatever it is. And it's like, so like let's record some of these sessions, do all this stuff because just that awareness of that information getting to more people is great. So I mean, we took that feedback and
But I think they love learning from John Deere. They love learning from Tenna. They really, really love learning from each other.
Yeah.
So playing into that is good.
That's a really good point. So it's like, I always talk about, you know, you said relationships too. I mean, we spent some time talking here now about relationships between like different booths or different exhibitors like that. There's also the relationship between end users. You said a GC to a sub.
Yeah.
There's also the contractors that don't compete. Right, so it's like if somebody's doing work in Pacific Northwest and somebody's doing work, you know, by Raleigh, by you, like they're not bidding on the same projects unless they're thing like that. But they probably have some of the same challenges. So like some of those connections. My favorite thing is to walk around behind a group of people and like get really close to them and overhear their conversation. I just eavesdrop on people all the time. But like it's
that doesn't sound weird.
People stop talking. Elbow me in the throat. But like it's interesting because like you can tell who knew each other and then who's known each other for a couple hours, right? And it's like they're like, oh, you're looking at that, you know, mulching attachment over there. Me too. Does that look cool? Do you have one now? And then they kind of get into that conversation. It's not a competitive conversation, so it's just the relationships and like the people everybody meets and like just talking to everybody here. It's fascinating.
Oh yeah, we're a huge proponent of that. That there's too many tech companies that don't get into the field with construction and get to know the people. You got to, if you're really going to serve construction, you got to understand the field, the shop, the yard, the office, the various roles, not just the construction company and what they do, but the different roles in that construction company. And that does not happen over a Zoom meeting.
No.
And you can, to your point, like so much of communication is nonverbal. To your point, like you can almost tell just by facial expressions and body language, like, do they know each other?
Right.
You know, and there's some trust that just has to be developed there by people knowing people, and it takes time and it takes effort, and you got to get there and you got to see what they're doing and understand their problems. If you're just selling a solution and not solving a real problem, then you know, what are you doing?
Right.
Anyway, great stuff.
Our industry is challenged because every job site's different, right? All these stakeholders, they're facing all these unique challenges, and the customers they have are different. And every job they have to figure out the optimum way to do it, which is exciting, but also daunting. And like, okay, how can we help our customers solve those problems and the new jobs they're doing every day?
The jobs being different, I always make, so AEM covers, like I look after construction side, and we have the agriculture side too. And I always give our ag side crap because I'm like, all you guys do is drive a tractor up and down the same path all day and the rows are straight. Like, it's like,
how hard is that?
I'm like, how is this? I actually did a presentation one time and I showed a picture of like row crops. And I showed another picture of row crops, and I said, what's the difference? And some guy goes, there's mountains in that one. I was like, correct answer. One was like corn and one was soybeans. And I'm like, whoa, yeah. And then I showed 3 or 4 construction job sites. The first one was like a pretty wild highway interchange project. The next one was a solar field. The next one was an office building. And I was like, what's the difference? And they're like, everything. And I was like, bingo. Also the correct answer. So it's like, how do you create something that impacts everybody doing all of that different type of work? I mean, you think about like the data centers going on now, right? So I talked to somebody else and actually we were talking like machine data and stuff like that, and the guy goes, you know what the biggest challenge in this project is? He goes, I don't know where any of my stuff is. We're on like a 400-acre site, and he goes, somebody drove the auger attachment over there and dropped it. I have no idea where it is. And he goes, only thing I know where it is everything I can see here, right? And then we're working on getting some like, I think it was like a Bluetooth tracking thing on stuff like that, right? But it was like, that's a different challenge than if you're building like a residential house. You're like, not in the backyard.
Yeah.
It's in the front yard, right? I mean, it's like, it's so different, and it's just...
Well, in the data centers, I've had a couple conversations with customers that talk about the incentives or the behavior it drives, because data centers in a lot of cases, number one is time.
Yes.
I just need it done by this date.
Right.
You know, so it's not a what's the absolute lowest cost per cubic yard bid. It is everything it takes to get to this date, which now all of a sudden, okay, so maybe there's more revenue, but you got to figure out, okay, how am I going to actually do it by then? So it's a different approach to your bidding, and like, okay, what tools do I need in order to accomplish it?
And you know what takes the most time? Machine downtime or rework.
Yeah.
So it's like, how do you do it right the first
Avoid
time
it,
and keep,
right.
avoid downtime and avoid doing rework?
Yeah,
Right? And it's like,
which is up around 30%, right? Depending on what studies, but they say 30% of work is rework.
is rework.
Yeah.
And that's that's the whatever that triangle is called. I feel like we just keep talking about charts and things with my hands. Where it's like time, price, speed, whatever.
Pick two.
Pick two thing.
Yeah.
Quality.
Quality. Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, I always forget what that one is. But it's like, yeah, data centers. It is quality and speed.
Yeah.
And they're like, how much does it cost?
Tell me how much it costs.
And
Yeah.
then figure out what you're going to tell them it costs, and then double it.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, not really, but it's go as fast as you can and figure out how to not have disruptions in the workflow.
It's new for a lot of construction companies. Wait, those are the two you're picking from the triangle?
Right.
I'm not used to that.
Yeah.
I'm used to low bid.
Right? Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully that really changes people's mentality, though, because you know it's like you get what you pay for a lot of times, right? So it's. I mean, I think of like resident. We built a house like a year and a half ago, right? So I mean, it's like a lot of different builders, a lot of different stuff. There's a guy in my neighborhood. I don't think he went with like the lowest builder, but they were like less expensive than us. They didn't put enough floor joists in his whole like first level over an exposed basement. He's like walking. It's like I'm walking like this, like on a springboard. It's super creaky, but it met code. But like, so what? I said to him, would you have paid an extra 10 grand and not be on a trampoline? He's like, I would have paid 20 grand, right? And it's like, but you just think about how that flows in price, and so they probably were not low bid, but I mean like that. It's like, what are you getting for this, right?
Yeah. So, you know, another trend, just kind of spurred talking about, we're hearing more, not necessarily in Europe, but I'm sure maybe some in the US as well, is a trend towards having data or digital as part of the bid up front.
Oh yeah.
Like if you can execute the job fully digitally or minimize paper, like there's a percentage of preference there by the end customer to award the bid to somebody who has more digital capabilities. So that's an interesting trend that we're starting to hear more of.
That's cool. Because I mean, they can use that data like after the fact.
Absolutely,
right? So it's like you look at the whole life cycle of something.
Yeah.
And instead of just being like, what does it cost for me to just build this thing?
Yeah.
It's like, but then maintain it after the fact. It's like you're willing to pay more up front to get all the data.
And you have less risk of losing some paper, right? Or hand scratches or whatever, so this stuff might get lost. So this way, it's better quality, reliability of data. It's there for the future for maintenance. So that's another trend that we're starting to see.
You hit two really great trends in my opinion. One is how people are selling work to some degree. Like most of the people come here and think, I need to be more productive or more safe. I need to make more money. But what's interesting is how they are winning work. And and this is exactly the play from your triangle. Outside of that triangle, like we're seeing companies win, certainly because of speed of delivery, but also like, are you going to keep everybody safe is becoming a differentiator. Like, and if you can't prove that and you can't show that score on that, like they're not going to let you bid on it, which is really interesting. And some of the folks we work with are actually building little places to show like the tech they use, and they're going to like let us show you how we're going to build this work and how we're going to do this digitally, and then we're going to give a handoff to you, kind of a play. And they're actually selling their work in terms of the digitization and tech and safety, and they're winning work because they're selling it differently, as opposed to, oh, you need this, here's your price. And so it's been fun to watch that evolve, and with the data centers are the great example as well.
It's way more than just lowest cost per cubic yard. Way more like nowadays with modern bids.
You also hit another great point, Nick, that I just love is around. I dropped my. You're gonna have to edit this out.
It's all swear right now.
Because it was like 5 minutes ago, and I'm like, oh my god! Oh, it was around construction and how all the construction companies are different. Like, I come from other industries than came into construction about 8 years ago, and when you serve the airlines, you get the top 6, and you're 85% done with the market, right?
Right.
Construction, no. How many construction companies are there in the United States? Does anybody know?
Oh my gosh. I feel like I've heard that number, and it always is just. And then what? So then it's like, how many people or companies own equipment, right? I mean, when you say construction, like, are we talking landscapers? Are they in that? I know, right? It's. When I joined Tenna, my biggest concern was, well, after we sell to 1,000 people, aren't we done? And I'm like, no, you're not even close. Starting to think about being done. Yeah. And that's something I had to learn. But more importantly, I think this is what you were hitting, is that they all do things a little bit differently.
Yeah.
Right? And you not only do you have to understand construction and those various roles, but you got to understand that they're not all doing things the same way. There could be different DOT regulations. They might have started with a different tech stack. It might be, we're in Vegas. Everybody talks about water trucks, but when you're in North Carolina, no one talks about water trucks, right? Like, so it's just, so all these differences. And equipment, and even how do you serve these people, or us as tech? Like, in tech, we use the term, we need to make things configurable, right? In the old day, it's like, it has to be customizable, right? Which means, like, you got to hire somebody to actually write code. But now you got to build it so, like, some kid can whiz bang with his finger and configure it, right? And it's got to be fast. You don't need, and so that's, a lot of the new tech coming out is like, okay, we understand, 80% covers everybody, but this 20%, we need to enable it so you're out in the field, slide this over, and it does it the way you want it to do it.
And the trick of that is user experience, right? How do you make it super easy to use so you don't have to handhold every single person? You enable that ability to configure.
And that simplicity is actually a lot of complexity.
It's hard.
Yeah, it's really hard.
Simplicity's hard.
Yeah, simplicity's hard.
And you think about, like, yes, it's a user experience, but it's just like what you think you would do naturally, right?
Yeah.
So I give my 4-year-old daughter my phone, and she's like, "Daddy, pictures," and I open the Photos app, and, like, she scrolls like this and clicks on something, and then clicks the back button, and it scrolls to another picture. I didn't say that is an arrow, you push that to go back, right? I mean, there's no training, right? So it's like, in this industry, there's a lot of training with operating and stuff like that, but a lot of it needs to just be intuitive to begin with, right? And
100%. Yeah, that's I believe that focus in construction really matters. You need to understand how the field workers actually work and get stuff done in order to build something that serves them. And there's always going to be some training. I don't mean to say, but you're right. Like, if it's not like, this is how I did things last week, I'm just doing it better and faster now. And if it's not that, then,
which is kind of back to that pace again, because there's so much, like, digital interface and user experience is so important. I'm going to make a prototype. Does this work? No. Okay. To really know what's intuitive mean? Like, what is intuitive when you're trying to do a certain workflow?
That's back to AI.
Yeah.
I was at a conference last fall, and a guy was talking about his son, who I think he said was going to graduate high school, like, now in a couple months, right? So he said 3 years ago, his son thought he was going to be a software developer.
Yeah.
And his dad said, wait to see how AI impacts before you commit to that. He said, anybody whose kid is in high school right now and thinks he's going to be a software developer, tell them to change immediately. They had a competition where they gave somebody a problem, and they said within, like, maybe it was 16 hours overnight, they had to basically they gave them a problem, and they had to create an app and a business that solved that problem. The company that won wrote 200,000 lines of code. They didn't write it. AI wrote it, had a logo, had a website, and a functioning web app to solve whatever the problem was. I'm like, and I think it was overnight. So, like, I don't think they stayed up all night. They were just like, computer chug on this, right? And it's nuts. I mean, it's like, to that point though, it's like the being able to iterate on that solution is becoming way faster. And if people aren't doing that, or aren't taking that back to the customer feedback thing of, like, this isn't really super intuitive, go redo it. In the past, you'd be like, all right, software team, like, here's some things to go change or whatever like that. And then it would take them hours to do it. Now it's like asking, Claude or Gemini, like, move this button, and it just, like, does it. Right? So,
as a great example, the presentation you gave yesterday, How long did that one take you to make? And how long would it have taken you at last CONEXPO 3 years ago?
So, yes, the presentation yesterday, we did a thing in the keynote stage called the Global Trends Impacting the Construction Industry.
Yeah.
So it was myself and Matt Abels from ABC just kicked it off, and we had slides. We had 7 different speakers. Mm-hmm. I took the title of their presentation, a 3-sentence description, and then their title and business, and I put it in there and I said, here are 7 different presentations. Create a title slide of each of them listing the title of the presentation, the presenter, the description, and a graphic that goes with what the text was. 30 seconds, if that. And I had 7 slides with likes, and I was like, okay, upload, and it was done. I mean, I can't imagine, I don't know how to make a graphic of a dozer on a job site with sensors pointing at it. Like, it's nuts.
The big change from that I'm seeing is these construction execs that are modernizing, and they're focusing on a lot of right things. It's got to be productive. You need to deliver work on time, and all those things are still true. The new thing that's happened over the last few years is that kids coming into construction in their 20s that maybe even used to come into construction to almost avoid tech are now expecting, like, this is what they're used to now. So if they come to your company and you don't have your tech and your process and your people all efficient this way, and they, like, hey, when I'm at home, I do it this way. Now I come to work and it takes 10 times longer. I'm not going to work here.
Right.
Like, and I don't know if you've heard, but there's a little bit of a labor shortage in construction, and it's not new. It's basically always been true. And yeah, you compete on paying somebody more by hour, maybe. You can compete on culture. That's a great one. But frankly, you need to make the job make sense and easy and do it the way someone in their 20s expects things to happen now. And if you're not doing that, like I'm actually about to talk to AGC, is the next folks joining us on the sofa, and they had some great data that these 70% of people in their 20s will leave a job if they don't like the tech, which is 70%. Yeah, I'm 50. Yeah, I'm in my 50s. I wouldn't do that, but that's the reality. Is like, this is like, if you're like, I'm not allowed to use my iPhone. I have to write stuff down. I don't know. It's an interesting thing. Yeah. Anyway. Well, I did a lot of talk. I want to say thank you.
We'd be done.
Yeah. You guys were so generous with your time. You guys are both amazingly busy here at CONEXPO. I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time to sit down and talk.